Welcome to Political Platform on RAPA Radio and Africa Independent Television, AIT. My name is Amechi Anapwe. The 2027 presidential campaign has opened another major front in the debate over Nigeria's economic direction, with former Vice President and African Democratic Congress presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar pledging to restore subsidy on petrol if elected president. In 2027, Atiku questioned how the savings from the policy have been utilized, arguing that Nigerians were promised that the resources would be channeled into poverty reduction, education, healthcare, security, and other areas of development. He has now promised to reverse the policy and ensure that those alleged to have misappropriated subsidy funds return the money. The pledge has immediately, as expected, drawn strong response from the presidency, even the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself, which describes Atiku's proposal as a reversal of his earlier position and questions his fiscal sustainability. Presidential spokesman Onanuga argues that restoring subsidy will return the country to a system associated with high fiscal costs, corruption, and inefficiency, while also potentially undermining the growth of domestic refining. The presidency is demanding that Atiku explain how much the proposed subsidy will cost annually, where the money will come from, whether borrowing will be required, and how the policy will fit within existing petroleum sector laws, such as the Petroleum Industry Act. It also argues that political promises on fuel prices must be backed by clear calculations. Atiku's proposal is likely to become a major campaign talking point, and I would say it is already. Is restoring petrol subsidy a realistic intervention to ease the burden on Nigerians, or is it a return to the costly policy that we have seen in the past? We'll be discussing all this against the backdrop of commencement of campaigns for presidential and National Assembly election. That was on Wednesday, August 9. What are the issues that will shape the campaign? The Peace Pact has been signed, and will candidates and political parties adhere to it? The whistle has been blown, campaigns are on, and the hope is that it will be issue-based so that Nigerians will get the best out of the candidates and engage with them. We'll be joined by Dr. Chijoke Ugwoke, a lawyer and policy analyst, who will be breaking down these issues for us. But as usual, we have with me in the studio here my colleagues Suju Eje and Mustafa Mohammed. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Amechi. Good morning, viewers and listeners.
Hello, good morning, viewers.
But we start with a visit to Asoro Presidential Villa, Abuja, by the winner of last Saturday's governorship election in Osun State, Adeleke. He previously announced that he will be visiting the president, where he intends to have a dance with him. He has promised to campaign vigorously for the president. He did not waste time in commending the president for what he called protecting democracy during the election. And so that meeting took place at the Asoro Presidential Villa, Abuja, on Thursday. It was at that meeting that the president responded to Atiku's statement position that he will reverse fuel subsidy. But at least the dancing governor is in town, having a handshake with the president, and after his swearing in, that will come just before the presidential election, it will be all campaigns for the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And so, Adeleke in the camp of the president. Oyetola was also seen. Yes, Oyetola was also seen at Asoro Presidential Villa, Abuja. And a lot of people believed Oyetola was the man that convinced President Bola Tinubu not to allow Adeleke into APC, promising the president that they will run him over. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. But let's hear from...
His tires were deflated along the line.
Let's hear from Ademola Adeleke as he speaks which journalist after that meeting with the president.
Expand your coast. That is the only way you can give thanks to Osun people.
Okay, and the meeting held yesterday.
Yes, I believe it was good of Governor Adeleke. I mean, he is a supporter of President Bola Tinubu. Even if he wasn't a supporter, Tinubu is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. All the governors are under his authority, whether you want to accept it or not, even though they are
Are they
independent
really?
in their own states.
Yes, there are
But
different
he's
levels of
like
government.
a father to all of them. That's what I mean. And it would only be polite that after you've gone to battle, you've won, you should go and tell your father, this is it, or this is my trophy. And of course, he had already thanked President Tinubu for not interfering with the election. We discussed that yesterday. We talked about body language and the fact that enormous powers rest in their hands, in the hands of presidents, and they can do certain things, and there's nothing anybody can do, at least from what we have seen. Our democracy has not developed to the point where our institutions are independent and can act independently without interference. I think that's one of the greatest problems that we have to do. So it was good of him to go and greet President Tinubu and to present his result to him. I do not see anything wrong in that.
It's politics without bitterness. We have to remember later Waziri Ibrahim of the Great Nigeria People's Party.
GNPP.
GNPP. His famous slogan, politics without bitterness. As a politician, a smart one in places like a place like Nigeria, you need to have an alliance, no matter what other people are saying. The Osun case is not different from that of your state, Anambra State, where the governor has worn the cap of the president with that famous logo. It brings much unity. But going beyond the support for the president and the visit to the president with his certificate, I think he needs to look inward. I mean, the governor of Osun State, Adeleke, right? He needs to look at, in terms of development, what does the state need? Of course, a lot of the state governors are competing to build flyovers, even where it's not needed. Like I learned that that was in Ebonyi, where the former governor Omar, he built flyovers in rural areas where people do not need. Ademola should look at the people of Osun State.
He built one in Oshogbo.
Oshogbo, yes, but he should look at what really they need in terms of schools, hospitals, most importantly, human capacity development, and the elevation as in training and training of the public servants, so that by the time he leaves that state, there should be a legacy for which he will be remembered. You know, most times in most of the states, the governors have been doing poverty alleviation or eradication on the pages of newspapers. We need something very realistic. I can give you models in other countries. For example, if you go to China, every community, every village is known for something they are producing that is either selling within the Chinese nation or some regions or being exported to other
product they have competitive advantage.
Yes, in Nigeria, our industries, including the bigger manufacturing sector and the small and medium enterprises that have not received attention, have all gone under. So we need to really do things that will change the fortune of our state.
Well, what happened with the Osun State governorship election tells us one thing, that the president wanted a free election, so to say, at least on the surface. But it appears those around the president didn't want that. You talked of President Muhammad Buhari. Recall when Obiano was going for re-election in Anambra, his security details were withdrawn, forcing Buhari to order that they be returned. It then tells you that those that took the decision perhaps were those around the president. The then Buhari was not aware of it. So when he got wind of it, he immediately ordered that they be restored. The same thing with the Osun State governorship election. Tinubu came out to tell us that he was not aware that the FCC was going to freeze the accounts of the state government and publicly order that they be restored. So does this suggest that some people around the president also took that action? Now it raises this issue of those around the president who wield presidential powers in the name of the president, sometimes illegally, and I tell you, it happens so much. And a president waking up to his responsibilities and saying, no, you went too far. But let's get to the main issue for the day, fuel subsidy debate. The three presidential candidates, the major ones in 2023, all agreed that they will remove subsidy, though they had different plans on how it could be removed. But in the run-up to the 2027 presidential elections now, with campaign starting, Atiku Abubakar has deviated from that norm. He has said he will remove subsidy, providing some level of explanations on how that could be achieved. And he says he will indeed subsidize production, especially local refining. That what happened in the past was subsidy on imported products, and that was why it was ridden with corruption. And he presents something different now. At least there is an opposite. I believe life is all about opposites. When they all agreed they will remove fuel subsidy, the campaign and debate wasn't robust. But now, it's either you're with Atiku's position or you're with Tinubu's position.
The thing is, at least he's presenting something different by saying he will remove subsidy, and then by paying attention to our local refineries, we producing our own, petroleum products. Now, I do not see why Nigeria has not been able to achieve that over the years with all the turnaround maintenance, beginning from the time of Don Etiebet as minister, the time of Dan Etete as minister, and know the huge sums that were sunk into the turnaround maintenance of our refineries, coming down to Buhari's time, and now Tinubu's tenure. We've had, the refineries will work in 2 weeks. The refineries, if he can pay attention to that, I do not see why Nigerians should not benefit from the natural resources that God has given us. If you go to the UAE, most of the countries in the UAE,
the Gulf region,
the Gulf region, citizens benefit from the oil that they have. They have some measure of concessions, some palliatives that make them thank God every day for giving them oil. Our own is strangulates us. You have to buy food. By the time you finish buying food, you can't even have money for food. So I think that we deserve to benefit from what God has given us. And we have so many other resources. So if he can do that, then we can look up to you, especially again, you look at the other angle, under Tinubu, removal of subsidy, yet we have had the news that a kind of subsidy is being paid even after
energy security,
energy
12
security.
trillion.
Exactly. So what is the difference between the subsidy that was there before and the energy security that they are telling us? Why do we have to suffer if we can spend that kind of amount on energy security?
But the administration, through the Minister of Finance, has said recently, a few days ago, that 15 trillion has been saved, and has provided explanations as to the tier of government that got what. States getting, local governments getting, federal government getting.
Amechi, whatever the minister is saying, I am saying my own as a Nigerian. As a Nigerian who goes to the market, who used to buy a mudu of gari for 200 naira, and now I buy it for 1,500.
As an individual economic unit.
Yes, exactly. You know the terms. You read it. So I'm talking like the ordinary Nigerian. You can't tell me we are making progress without it being reflected in the everyday life of the average Nigerian. Until I begin to feel it as a Nigerian, until my neighbors and those around me, those in my village, begin to feel the impact, and in other parts of the country, then we will know that we're making progress.
Maybe I have to be a promoter fide in this matter, the devil's advocate. It's a very good
You're
idea.
entitled to your opinion.
Yes.
The Constitution guarantees you that.
Exactly, Dr. Abechi. The promotion of modular refineries and then issuance of licenses to other refineries, those people who intend to build refineries, these things have been in the pipeline the past 20, 25 years. And the only one we have seen so far is Dangote refinery. Of course, BUA is there doing a very beautiful job in Akwa Ibom. They are yet to complete. But the question is, even when you have refineries, private refineries, local production, like being proposed by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who is now the presidential candidate of ADC. The biggest problem is, can they have access to the crude oil to refine? Because even Alhaji Aliko Dangote, he had to be shouting over his voice before eventually this President Bola Ahmed Tinubu graciously, used the NNPC to grant him concession. And if you are talking about energy security, for Atiku Abubakar, let him also understand that it's not just the issue of fuel that we have as a problem in Nigeria. What about electricity? What about security? Not just Atiku Abubakar, all the other presidential candidates need to give us promises that they can, stand by.
After subsidy on petrol, perhaps we'll come to subsidy on electricity. Should
it
be or should it not be?
If
it should be, how should it be administered?
So the issue of subsidy on electricity, I actually want a reversal of the initial sale of NEPA to those who never had
experience.
Yes, people who never had experience or pedigree. Secondly,
that's the discourse.
Yes, under the new scheme, the state government can actually do hydro, they can do solar, they can do wind. So I keep asking, with all the billions the state government are receiving, why are they waiting until these dead companies continue to promise what they cannot give Nigerians? Bola Ige said two years. When they couldn't, when Fashola came,
stone into water.
The cabal.
No, I don't even blame cabal. I think it's the lack of capacity. Even when Buhari gave Ministry of Power, Works and Housing to Fashola, who is a lawyer, it was a square peg in a round hole. Fashola made his own promises. Saleh Moman and others came. They made their own promises. Look at the scandal at the hydro, whatever. So I think the Atiku Abubakar and other presidential candidates need to go beyond the issue of energy debates. You talk, the villa will reply. The other aspects of energy security.
But we have to start from somewhere, from petrol subsidy.
But we have come a long way. You are talking about 20 years democracy since over 20 years since.
It's no longer a nascent democracy.
It's no longer a nascent democracy. Why is it that every other person who makes promise and he becomes president will fail in most of these aspects? You need to ask yourself.
I think that in Fashola's case, well, as the Lagos governor, he transformed Lagos. Everybody knows that. And Ambode came and built on it. But coming to the federal, he was given a load that was too much for him. I mean, how do you merge housing, works and power? Works on its own is a huge load. Housing on its own is very, very huge. And then I don't know what gave them the idea to merge the three and give it to one man, because there was no way one man could have carried that load. Even carrying one each of those ministries was huge enough. So I think that was what affected Fashola's performance. Even a magician or whatever would not be able to do anything in that situation.
Well, I'm happy again that we have policy alternatives now. Not all the candidates going towards a particular way. My own stand is that subsidy exists. Every country in the world pays subsidy in one way or the other. Farmers in the U.S. are the most subsidized across the world.
Yes.
They are paid to produce, even when there is no market for the products, because the country understands the need and reason for them to be in production. So what is subsidized is production. The problem with Nigeria is that we were subsidizing consumption and production of fuel refining outside the shores of the country. Let the debate continue. It's laziness for me if you say, let subsidy go. Because there are more than 100 subsidies going on in Nigeria. The Nigerian people subsidize the feeding of the first family at Aso Villa, but including the second family, the family of the vice president. The food they eat is a subsidy paid by Nigerian citizens. In White House, The US president pays from his pocket for food eaten in White House. So if we decide to pay for them through public funds, it's subsidy. We subsidize those that are going to
So why not
trade.
subsidize for Nigerians
Why don't you
too?
subsidize ordinary people?
Yes.
Why don't you carve out a mechanism that will stop corruption and ensure that the real subsidy gets to the people? That's the hard work. You need to do the hard work and not just to wash your hands off it and say subsidy is gone without protecting the vulnerable. People that are poor and have no means of livelihood. How did you provide for them? Everybody's on his or her toes now, and this is just the beginning of the debate. Let's go for a break. When we come back, we'll welcome our guests who will weigh in on this subsidy issue and other wider issues that will come in.
And participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Thread.
To every young Nigerian holding a smartphone, I say, your digital footprint is part of your citizenship. You know now, the moment you go to the embassy for your visa, they are checking you up on social media to see what you have been doing. So your footprints are very, very important. Before you forward a message, verify it. Before you publish an allegation, establish the facts. Before you attack someone online, remember that there is a human being behind that screen. Before you share inflammatory content, ask yourself one question. Will this build Nigeria or burn Nigeria? Our message should therefore be simple. Think before you click. Verify before you share. Pause before you post. So my charge to Nigerian youth, as you leave this dialogue and return to your communities, I challenge you to remember, do not allow yourself to be recruited for violence. Do not carry weapon for another person's assignment. Do not become an instrument of misinformation, hate, or digital intimidation. Participate actively, peacefully, and lawfully in our democracy. Protect your future, because your future is not yours only. Your future is Nigerians' future. Your future is greater than today. Protect it, build it, own it, and use it to build a safer, more peaceful, and prosperous Nigeria.
That admonition coming from the Inspector General of Police, Tunde Disu, very apt and timely as we go into campaigns. Youths, you've heard the counsel as you engage, as you campaign for the candidate of your choice, be well guided. Let's welcome our guest for today, a lawyer, Dr. Chijoke Ugwoke, a policy analyst. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Amaji. Thank you for having me.
So we hope it will be a campaign of issues, and issues are coming up now. The subsidy issue.
Oh, yeah, that is our prayer, and I hope. Unfortunately, we don't always expect to hear the truth from politicians, because I think we're saying that he will restore the subsidy in whatever shape or form may not be quite honest. He has seen the backlash that Tinubu got because of subsidy removal, and he feels that's a shortcut to appealing to Nigerians their desire for a better life and for a soft life. So because we all saw what subsidy did to the economy, he was there screaming also that he will remove it when he becomes president in 2023. I don't see what has changed.
So you're surprised he had a change of position from 2023 and now going into 2027?
I am surprised, and I believe that he is saying that because he has seen the backlash from Nigerians. The subsidy regime we witnessed was a total hemorrhage on our economy.
Some have also said President Tinubu was against removal of subsidy. He organized protests under Goodluck Jonathan, but he came in and removed subsidy. So did he not also have a change of his own position?
You are reinforcing what I'm saying.
Yes.
The masses also constitute part of the problem. because they rarely will believe anybody telling them the truth. Because the truth, most of the time, will be a bit harsh. They won't be pleasant to hear. So Tinubu wanted to take over power, and whatever Jonathan did that appeared to be painful, you will go against it. So when this, like January 2012 for the other about, like when Jonathan removed the subsidy or increased the fuel, and removed the subsidy, yes, they mobilized Nigerians, and from there onwards, he never became popular until he left office.
Yes,
But when he came to power,
you talked about the subsidy regime being a serious hemorrhage. Now, was it a hemorrhage because the people benefited, or because people were using it to milk the system?
now let me just finish the analogy I was trying to make between Atiku and Tinubu. Tinubu said he was against it, but when he came to power, the reality on ground forced him to do what he should do. So I believe that even the man telling you now that he will restore it won't, because the reality on ground may not permit that. Now, to your question, madam, the hemorrhage was on the economy that was going to sustain the nation in a very fundamental manner. It's not about you trying to pamper your children when you don't have the capacity. We do not have the capacity for the kind of subsidy they wanted to do. And it was an opening for criminals, a few Nigerians, to leverage on the fact that we're enjoying subsidy, to loot, to steal. And during the 8 years of Buhari, they were borrowing to fund this subsidy. They were borrowing and handing the money over to a few individuals. Fine. Price was, fuel was relatively cheap. But then what about the other legs and aspects of our economy? What about teachers who were not being paid? What about the infrastructure that was decaying faster?
So the subsidy was lost in corruption.
It was lost in corruption, and it was.
But the government was unable to fight the corruption.
What? No. No. With or without the corruption, the amount of money that was going into it, the trillions that were going into it, took away a substantial part of the resources that should be distributed across the other aspects of the economy. Everything about going to buy fuel. We have infrastructure that needs to be maintained. We have workers that need to be paid. We have a future that rested on how balanced our economy is, how properly managed it is. It's a very unpopular opinion these days to talk about, because I go to the filling station, I will tell my driver, you see, I've just added 40,000 to the economy.
So what
because if I look at how much it was costing and how much I'm paying now, you appear to be losing money. But then the system is better than my comfort, better than your comfort, because eventually that is where our comfort is going to be.
You talked about expending huge sums. What's the difference between the sums we spent on subsidy and the one we're spending, the 15 trillion that we have spent on energy security, according to the government?
I don't understand.
The government was accused of spending money on subsidy, through the back door. And of course, the FG came out to explain that it was securing our energy security, so to say. So, and meanwhile, Nigerians don't really understand, and we're not feeling the impact of that yet. So what is the difference between the lesser money spent on subsidy and the 15 trillion being spent on energy security?
This was a single aspect of our economy, petroleum, making it cheaper at the pump station. Now, I think if I get him right, we are talking about security, energy, education. There are a lot of issues to be addressed in a country. Now, the countries that do these subsidies, let me tell you one unfortunate thing that we fail to realize. We as a people, Africa as a whole, never had the opportunity to plunder anybody, to steal from anybody. When you talk about Americans and their subsidies, what do? They subsidize their farmers so they can push those products to the rest of the world and make profit, and again use it as a leverage on the rest of the world, so that you in Africa cannot survive on your own production because they will push cheaper products to you. It's some kind of neo-colonialism. And these are the people who, for instance now, they've gone to Venezuela, about $30 billion, barrels of oil underneath. They've seized it. These things are the things they use.
That's the US.
That's the US. So we, Francis Mitterrand, former French president, said that if it were not for Africa, France would be worse than a third world country. These people had the opportunity to steal, to plunder, to loot others, and then use it for what we call social security network and all manners of stuff. We don't have that opportunity. So we must have to fend for ourselves through our own creativity and ingenuity. But if we want to live like the West, being spoon-fed, when they went to Ukraine, I'm giving you this instance because we have to understand our peculiar situation. The first thing they did in the midst of the pain of Ukrainians was to sign away their mineral wealth. And they were
Before they would support their war against Russia.
Yeah, before they would support them. So the first thing they did in their distress was to get them under pressure to sign away a lot of things for the benefit of Americans. So if we had that opportunity, who would want to pamper his family?
You talked about contributing to the economy because that's what we'll get from the government. Oh, we are building the economy. The economy, is it for who? Is it for those in government? The 15 trillion they say is savings from subsidy. Where did they invest it on? The investment, did it get to the people? Is it not all about the welfare of the people and well-being? Can you say the savings, that it trickled down to the people? If you gauge the level of hunger out there.
You know, there's something called, we don't trust our government.
Yes.
Otherwise, there's something called delayed gratification. It's a principle of life. For us as a country to move forward, we must understand that you plan. I'm not here standing put for the president. He has his lapses, the greed, the corruption. I can argue about that. But if any attempt to put the economy on a better footing, because we have children. Now, let me tell you something. Sometimes people say that if you praise a strong man, he does more. We must not lose sight completely of what these things have turned Nigeria into. Before now, we had state governors who could virtually do nothing. My own state, for instance, they could virtually do nothing because there was no money.
Which state is that?
Enugu State.
Are they not supposed to generate money?
Now,
are they not waiting for federal allocation? Is that not the laziness I talked about that we see in governance and in government circles?
Now,
Lack of initiative and laziness.
The now in that same state, yes, when they now turned on the local economy to generate money internally, there was the backlash is worse than that of removal of fuel subsidy. The people felt punished. They felt that you are making us and you are taking so much from us. But again, we need to put a system in order. So if you say
system that benefits the people,
it will ultimately benefit everybody.
When will it benefit? Because the issue is that they keep promising. Now, over history, my generation, for instance, I became conscious as a being under austerity measure. Yeah. We suffered. We were keen to buy essential basics, milk and all that. They will tell us manage. Every administration since I became conscious have been saying manage. So all this while, this present administration is also saying wait, over time it will get better. Till I'm dead, when will I now benefit from government, those in my generation? Are we going to waste our lifetime waiting for that day that government promised it will be good?
Now, as a kid, I knew when Awolowo was shouting and saying, we are not qualified for the kind of luxury we are having. Before Shagari went into austerity, there was a lot of waste. If you remember the Udoji areas, if you remember the availability of all manners of canned food from Western world, foreign rice, every single thing was available when we had the oil boom. It was
National Supply Company and others.
So many things. And Awolowo, who was intelligent and was saying that this is not what we should be doing now. We are not qualified for this luxury. Very soon the economy will collapse. Did it not collapse? Buhari collapsed in the Nigerian economy with borrowing to subsidize fuel. The same thing that Shagari and his team did that brought about austerity.
It's the same what thing, citizens are asking for are basics, because they are well over you talked about.
Yes.
What he gave in Western Nigeria, A welfarist government was not imported canned foods. He was investing in education, health, and
Agriculture.
basics. So there's a difference between government investing on the basics and those that invested in luxury.
He aspired to come to the center and replicate this thing he did in Western Nigeria for the rest of the country. Free education was not giving anybody food. He was laying a foundation that took the western part of the country to a certain level. He was investing in fundamentals. Many Nigerians cannot connect the importance of a good road linking the rural area to where they are, unless you give them that food, or they go to the filling station and then they buy fuel for almost free. That's not how to build a system. If you want to put Nigeria in good perspective, take a family. Take your family and project for the next 20 years. You don't begin by enjoying as you are supposed to enjoy after the investment. When you are investing, planning your family, you put money into the fundamentals. It will eventually yield fruit. The aspect that I'm unhappy with is the flamboyance of those in power. Absolutely. The greed, the apparent display of opulence. So
it's against the poverty.
Against the poverty. But in reality, we're a very wretched country. We're a very wretched country. You say Tinubu is borrowing, but how much did he borrow?
But let's go beyond. You know, you spoke about the past, you know, undeserved luxury of the past. Of course, after the First Republic, you know, it was opportunists that have been ruling the country until 1999. When the democracy returned, and then when you assess the personality and profile, most of the leaders were only there because of opportunities, not because they are qualified to lead this country. That's what even led many of us even to question when Nigeria got independent. Were we really qualified to even have the independence? Coming back to Nigeria now for the next general election, having politicians debating energy security, subsidy, would there energy infrastructure in Nigeria. Do you foresee some of these promises as realistic? Are they going to work?
Now, the taste of the pudding is in the eating, and there are no way you can eat what has not been put on the table.
Exactly.
These things are promissory. Now, if you remember when Margaret Thatcher was in power in the UK for 50 years, he was one of the most hated. But she transformed that economy. So it is left for us to study.
But she also stopped giving milk to school children.
But she transformed. Eventually, she became so popular after the transformation. So I will want to study Tinubu outside what I feel is the alleviation we are not getting immediately. Now, how strategic are the strides? Would you have not wanted a Tinubu who will say, well, let's go into subsidy. If we wanted personal money, that's the easiest way to make money in Nigeria, through subsidy. Yeah, if it is about his selfish interest, I don't know why he should stop it. And when Adeleke said that we reintroduce it, it is highly suspect. Very. But we are looking at...
No, but he's also talking about repairing the country's refineries, and that's very, very key. That's one area that we have not had the required results.
They should be sold off as they are, because they've spent so much money. The refineries, we have gone beyond repairing refineries. Dangote is there, Bua is there.
But you didn't speak about the massive corruption. You can sell the refineries, but those who stole our commonwealth in the name of turnaround maintenance stole a lot of money. Do you think they should be allowed to go just sell the refineries?
They shouldn't. They should.
The name of the former GMD of NNPC, Melekari, kept coming out, and the guy has not, been arrested.
Those are the challenges. But you can take an audit of where we are today. Who stole the money? How did they steal the money? That's a different matter. If you want to prosecute them, if you want to chase them around, or if you feel that the cost of chasing them around may be much, because some of these thieves can actually engage the government in a standstill where you lose more money chasing them. That's why the best aspect of leadership is to make sure that they don't steal your money. But when the money is in their pocket, they're easy to fight you. Global is one of our ex-ministers was freed in UK, not even in Nigeria. Despite the weight of preponderance of evidence and whatever, eventually what do you hear?
Are you saying that the UK court didn't do a good job? You know, that's a society that really has nothing to lose in all of this. I think that they had their investigation and they had their results.
Now, in Nigeria, too, when they say go to court, they assume that the court will do their best. If you don't trust your own court, why would you trust another person's court? I'm telling you that sometimes,
No,
yes,
you're
I
the
don't
one
know if I
saying
can't
that
trust in Nigerian
there was
courts. Why would I trust?
preponderance of evidence and she was let go, she was freed. And I'm saying that the UK court must have done their...
They must have done their bit. And you
investigation.
believe that Nigerian court, when they give a
I'm not
decision,
comparing.
may not have done their best?
I'm not comparing.
As a lawyer, in my opinion, I don't agree with the judgment over the lady in the UK, whether it is true or not. But I also believe in Nigeria. Everywhere in the world, rich people, especially criminals, have a way of fighting the system. So the point I'm trying to make is that you are talking about people who looted Nigeria to the refineries. A reasonable government will look at the cost of trying to chase them around and say, well, let's just put our energy into... People made this analysis. From your business and they are stealing your money, your boys are stealing your money, I say all you have to do is to leave your business and begin to chase them at the primary business you are doing. You lose more. You lose more. You must concentrate on recovering your business, recovering your leverage. So,
is that not giving corruption a high upper hand?
What?
Not chasing those who stole our commonwealth. Is that not giving a corruption an upper hand?
It is not. If your preoccupation is in now, my business was analog. Let me put in checks. Let me do automation. Let me introduce, like the TSA they introduce, if they run it very well, the IPPI they introduce. Some of these things are what? If you run them very well, will prevent the money being stolen, let alone you going to look for somebody to prosecute.
Let me take you back to what you talked about, what other countries, the advanced countries are doing. They subsidize production in their country so that the output will be cheap and become competitive
Yes.
when they export.
And they emasculate the economies of other people.
Now, if we don't protect our industry by doing the right subsidizing production, because the problem with our subsidy is that it was lost in corruption. It was not getting to the right people. And my only concern with Atiku's position is that he has not told us how he will police the borders. He said he will track the subsidy to the local refinery so that they will deliver to the people. But he has not spoken about our open borders, how it will move out. So we need to hear from him, because if he don't do that, smugglers will take
from
it out.
From his village, you can enter Cameroon.
So we need to interrogate him. But back to those foreign countries that subsidize their production. Because of removal of subsidy on petroleum, on electricity, you know how industries are closing down. The cost of production has risen astronomically. It's cheaper to import from China. In fact, when the goods land from China, I wonder whether there was even any cost in production.
Exactly.
It almost at nothing. It's even the middle people and the importers that are even taking the biggest profit. Now, how can our own local producers compete when foreign governments are subsidizing production and our own production is not being subsidized? Rather, local government, state government, federal government are invading you for one tax or the other. Every day, businesses are closing down in Nigeria. How can we compete with them in this regard?
Now, you leverage on your strength. As it is now, our ability to compete is very little, no matter what we do. So all we need to do as a country, if we want to move forward, is to come down from that level of competition. Feed your people. Connect the rural areas. Because I hear people say, everything is not road, everything is not road, everything is not road. If you don't connect your people together, where will you start? These days, because the government of today appears to be interested in infrastructure, the common chant everywhere is that it's not just about road, it's not about road. So, well, let me come down to what I believe Tinubu did, or he said he's doing. You could have it bad today, but it could have been worse. So would it have been better for us if we continue on that trajectory of borrowing? A family,
are we not borrowing now?
No, of borrowing to loot. Okay. Now, the borrowing we are borrowing is going to our capacity. What we need, the infrastructure deficit in Nigeria, $1 trillion will not solve it. Our economy is zero. So when they say government borrow $5 billion, $20 billion with this vast land and the population, I begin to wonder. Because if actually we can have that resource, $1 trillion, it will not solve our infrastructural deficit. So the fact that we are borrowing in these trickles is not. America is in debt to 40 trillion. 40 trillion. So we are talking about a government of this size borrowing $5 billion. And then people who should know better are instigating the masses to say that this and that.
But have you seen the tangible results of our borrowings?
We'll have to go to the mails now.
So the $5 billion, what can it do? Assuming you borrow $5 billion. The East-West road and all those kind of stuff. We can only do what we can do. All we need to do, if you ask me, is to come down where we are, strengthen whatever we have. If we are going to food production, let it be stable food for Nigerians to feed Nigerians, to move away from those ones where we have to compete with anybody. Don't bring wheat to us from Ukraine. Don't bring wheat here from Russia. If it is cocoyam, if it is maize that people can produce, government should strengthen those areas and make sure
subsidize the production.
Yes.
That is it.
Exactly.
So yes, that's what government has been running away from.
Exactly.
All the subsidies existing in Nigeria are the ones that they enjoy. Starting from feeding them in the...
You have put some way into my
all
mouth.
the government houses at the federal level, state level, local government level, their travels, their health bill, we subsidize them. So the little
entertainment
that gets to the people, they tell us, though, it's dealing with corruption. Deal with the corruption so that the subsidy will come to the people. That's the argument. Well,
let the people have a breath of fresh air in this
let's
country.
also, I said you remove all those subsidies, then you remove from the people. We now understand we're on the same page. We can't be dying of poverty.
I agree with you. I agree
Poverty
with you on
rate
that.
keeps increasing, and you're saying, no, we are protecting the economy. What is more important, the people or the economy? The people is meant for the economy.
Are we not
the economy,
looking-
rather, is meant for the people.
Are we not looking too much at the policies of the federal government? What about the state? What about the
He
extra
mentioned the state.
billions they are collecting? You see convoys of 40
Let's take our
vehicles.
news now.
Hospitals are empty and schools are empty. The governors are there traveling abroad for headache and kata.
All
It's
right,
sad.
so Emmanuel Ede from Madala sent our first mail, and he says, may I use this medium to commend the National Peace Committee for facilitating the signing of peace accord by the politicians before presidential and governorship elections in our country. However, I'm of the opinion that the committee should do the following, among others: push for the legislation that will empower it to investigate and prosecute whoever or whichever parties that violate this agreement, to involve other contestants like the national and state houses of assemblies, as well as leaders of political parties, to push that the National Assembly will empower it to ensure that INEC shall conduct free, fair, and credible elections in Nigeria. And Comrade Monday Ame from Abuja says, the visit of Governor Ademola Nuruddin Jackson Adeleke to President Bola Tinubu in the villa on Thursday, where he presented his certificate of return to the president, is significant, as this will help to de-escalate the political tension in Osun State. And this is a good example of politics without bitterness. The invaluable advice by Mr. President to the governor to treat every citizen of Osun State fairly and equitably, irrespective of their political affiliation, is commendable, and I urge him to adhere to the advice for the peace and progress of the state. Finally, I commend the governor for reiterating his support for the re-election of Mr. President. This is consistent with the philosophy of Omuluabi. Nobody should intimidate him for his political decision. Everyone should support candidates of their choice without intimidation. And the third one is from Femi Jegede from Airport Road, Abuja. And he says, I wonder if the Tinubu-led federal government understands the essence of criticism in democracy. Former VP Atiku Abubakar promised to return subsidy if elected president. This should ordinarily call the presidency to do a retrospect on the issue of subsidy. Unfortunately, the presidency has let hell loose. What the subsidy removal has achieved is enrich the governors, make the governors embark on many projects that are not beneficial to the masses, impoverish the majority of Nigerians. Nigeria needs thinking and empathetic leaders.
Okay, that's it for the program today. We have to say thank you so much to our guest, Dr. Chijioke Ogbuke. Most of our followers on our YouTube page believe you are an APC apologist. Are you a member of the APC?
I'm not a member of APC.
Okay.
Yes, but if I don't
you're
see...
apolitical. You don't belong to
I
anything.
am totally apolitical. And if I don't see a better candidate, I will vote
And you are not your contractor.
No,
Okay.
never.
Thank you so much for joining us today. On behalf of my colleagues, Mustafa Mohammed, and Ujoeje. My name is Amici Anapue. Have a good day and a good weekend.